let's talk a little bit about what's going on now. 2020 seeing a lot of protests, a lot of riots, a lot of looting, a lot of mayhem on the streets. What it's done is gun stores around the country are sold out. Is this backfiring on the left?
You think? Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Barack Obama was the gun salesman of the year for about 8 years. And now Antifa and the terrorist groups like Black Lives Matter and MS-13 and these gangbangers out there that really, let's be perfectly honest, what a horrible bastardization of the English language to claim to be under the banner of a term Black Lives Matter when clearly the members of that gang, Black lives don't matter to them. So we have to zero in on the linguistics, but when it comes to the purity of the self-defense instinct / responsibility, I got to tell you, Eric, you got to be a lunatic fringe maniac, freak, irresponsible punk to not believe in the right and the duty of self-defense. Look what happened in St. Louis, where these weasels have found their way into political power as a prosecutor and attorneys, and they literally claim that someone on their property defending their life, that they're the assaulters and that they're the criminals. So this really is Planet of the Cuckoo's Nest. This is like the dumbest era in the history of not just America, but maybe mankind. So God bless the McCloskeys. God bless people who are trained and capable. And quite honestly, you don't really have to be trained, though the McCloskeys could use some training. But the right to keep and bear arms has been proven to make the difference between good people living or dying. Who can argue with this?
You know, you look at that video of the couple, the McCloskeys you talk about, he's wearing a pink polo shirt tucked into his khaki pants, and she's holding a gun like this, and you just go, where are we? How has America come to a place where a couple has to stand on their front lawn and protect their own property? I mean, it literally is the definition or the textbook definition for the Second Amendment.
Sure, and then there are guys that seem to be so brainwashed. And Juan Williams, he's a friend of yours and mine. I admire the guy on some levels, but when he tries to make the ridiculous point that the couple were assaulting people when they were standing on their private property, supported by the Castle Doctrine, everything they did was 100% legal. And then Juan says, but nobody was attacking them. They weren't even coming onto their porch because they had guns, Juan. That's the only reason they weren't burnt down and assaulted. People had been killed and completely ruined lives in the arson and the destruction and the rioting because they didn't have guns. Here's a perfect example of good people who are armed and capable of stopping evil people, the ones that killed that retired cop, the ones that burnt down neighborhoods and cities left and right. And Juan Williams finds fault with the people who stopped arson and murder. So there really is a divisiveness, but they brought it upon themselves because people who execute their inalienable, self-evident, truth-based, God-given individual right to keep and bear arms for the irrefutable, pure instinct of self-defense. If you're against that, you're literally against mankind. So I'm so proud to be on the board of the NRA and to support people who believe in defending their lives. It's perfect.
Ted Nugent is now, let's call you the chief law enforcement officer of America, and we see all these defund the police departments. We see all the rioting. What does Ted do to clean up the streets and bring law and order back to the streets?
Well, Eric, I don't know if you know this, but I've been a sworn sheriff deputy since 1984. I have actually conducted federal raids with my friends in the U.S. Marshals and the FBI. There are some good guys in the FBI, not many, but there are some. And I've gone after felons. I've arrested rapists and murderers and assaulters and child traffickers and dope runners. So I've been in the belly of the beast. And let's just put it in perspective from the Motor City Madness in the asset column of your life. I create jobs. I create revenues, I plant trees, I balance herds, I feed the hungry, I donate to every military and law enforcement and children's charity in the world. My family is in the asset column because the Nugent family is exactly how society should work. No crime, no blood sucking, and here's a wild extreme view. We actually care about our health instead of asking someone to pay for our health care for those who don't care about their health. I know that's a broad statement, but it's very applicable in many instances. So what I would do is what Donald Trump stands for. Break the law. We're going to arrest you, take you into custody by whatever the means you force upon us, whatever level of control that you force upon the law enforcement heroes. We will put you in a cage and prosecute you. And if we convict you, you will stay in that cage as long as the law allows. No more engineered recidivism. And when someone is assaulting you with a brick, a citizen has the right to give you a couple rounds in the chest, because attacking with a brick is a threat against your life. And when you are in fear for your life, you get to neutralize that threat. If it's coming with a brick or a pipe or a gun or a firebomb or a 2x4, that's the only thing that's missing, is where good gets to stop evil. And I would tell the great heroes of law enforcement that are my friends and my heroes, I would say, enforce the law, serve and protect based on your training and the common sense knowledge that good guys need to overpower bad guys. Case closed.
You know, raise your hand if you want to vote for Ted Nugent for Attorney General of the United States, because that will definitely bring law and order back to the streets. Ted, you know, just a little fun here before we let you go. We've gone on quite a while, but I'm going to, you know, on the road. You spend a lot of time on the road. You spent a lot of time on the road back in the, you know, the 80s and the 90s. Who was the most fun to be with? Who did you appear with? Who did you hang out with? Who was fun to be with?
Well, first of all, when you talk about fun, I'm the czar
Besides
of
you.
fun.
Right, you're the czar of fun. Besides
fun.
Ted Nugent.
All my bandmates, I've gotten to play from everybody, Vanilla Fudge and the Chambers Brothers and Blood, Sweat and Tears and Aerosmith and Cheap Trick and Journey and Foreigner and ZZ Top. And I played with all the greatest musical forces in the history of the world, literally all of them. And boy, do we have fun. The only deterrent against fun is when they're comfortably numb, stoned, or drunk, and you can't have fun with them because they're stumbling and they're puking and they're in the way, they're in the liability column. But for the most part, the musicians around this world have an incredible work ethic. They've really put their heart and soul into creating a soundtrack that has really enriched the world. We have to admit that. And I love all those guys. We've had so much fun. In fact, last year, Eric, I'm 72 this year. 2019 was the greatest tour of my life, with Jason Hartless on drums, Greg Smith on bass, the greatest crew in the world and the greatest audiences in the world. So that if Ted Nugent, born in 1948, can have the greatest musical outrage fun all these years later, anybody can do anything.
30 seconds left. Ted Nugent, Charlie Daniels. Did you know the guy? What are your thoughts on his passing?
Great man, a great American, a great patriot, an incredibly gifted musician, and just a fine, fine gentleman. And I did a tribute because I did many, many of his volunteer charity events with him, and he was the heart and soul of what all Americans should be. God rest his soul.
All right, we'll leave it right there. You can catch Ted. Thank you very much. Always good to have you. A good friend of mine, Ted Nugent, everybody. You can catch Ted and John Brankus on the Spirit Campfire podcast every Monday and Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern on Facebook and YouTube. Nugent, rock and roll.
Live it up. Godspeed.